Hey Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Captain Clyde's MTG. And we've finally got some leaks, which I'm not going to lie to you, I missed them. For the commander decks, so we've got not every deck or what cards come from what deck. I'm sure you guys can figure it out, but we are going to go over them to look at these new cards in the commander decks, and some of them are actually pretty pricey. So before we get started, remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Comments down below is going to feed that YouTube algorithm. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so please subscribe. I greatly appreciate it, especially if you like the information you're getting from the channel. Also, links in the description to the eBay store, Patreon, and a quick email in case you just want to reach out and say hi. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to start it off with Loot Dispute. Like that's never happened in a D&D game. Anyway, so for a red and 3 have an enchantment, it says when it enters the battlefield, you get to take the initiative and create a treasure token. Whenever you attack the player who has the initiative, you get to create a treasure token. Now it has Loud Ruckus as well. Whenever you complete a dungeon, you get to create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. So that's actually pretty sweet for 4. It does take a lot to get going, but I like the fact that it gives you the initiative, it gives you a treasure. You get treasures for attacking. I think this is a really good card. I think it's going to see a lot of play, especially since it's only going to be in a commander deck. Next, we have Death Kiss for a red and 5. You get a 5/5 Beholder. Whenever a creature an opponent controls attacks one of your opponents, double its power until end of turn. So this is all kinds of almost pillow fighting with stones. Anyway, for a red and XX, you can Monstrosity it. Boy, that's a callback. You guys remember that? So what that means is this creature isn't Monstrosity. You can put X +1/+1 counters on it, and it becomes monstrous. Basically, you could, like, if you put 11 mana into it, you make it a 10/10. Now, when the Death Kiss becomes monstrous, you get to goad up to X creatures target opponent controls, and this is an ability usable at instant speed, so I do like this. I think this is pretty sweet. Although with the amount of mana it's going to take, since it costs 6 and so forth and so on, probably only going to be good in a big group game, not anything competitive. Next, we have the Astral Dragon. This is pretty sweet, gotta admit. 2 blue and 6 for a 4/4 flyer. It has Project Image. When the Astral Dragon enters the battlefield, you get to create 2 tokens that are copies of target non-token permanents, except they're 3/3 dragon creatures in addition to the other types, and they have flying. At worst, for 9 mana, you get a 4/4 flyer, a 3/3 flyer, and a 3/3 flyer that are all dragons, all Astral Dragons. Best case scenario, you lay this for 8 and copy some completely belligerent thing on the field and just go ham on everybody. I like this. I think this is going to be something for the dragon deck people are going to like. And there might be decks this is built around where you can pull stuff out of your graveyard and just, again, make copies of just belligerent things that have amazing abilities. Like, imagine if someone had an Emrakul on the battlefield and you cast this, and all of a sudden you have a 3/3 dragon Emrakul with all its abilities and flying, and then you take an extra turn and you swing at somebody with Annihilator. Ba-dum-bum. So I can see this having some serious play, so keep an eye out for it. Next, we have Artificer class. So we have a class card. That's pretty sweet. Didn't get those in the main set. So for a blue and 1, the first artifact spell you cast each turn costs 1 less. Already sweet. By leveling up to level 2 for a blue and 1, when the class becomes level 2, you reveal the top of your library until you reveal an artifact card. Put that card into your hand, the rest on the bottom in random order. That's also pretty sweet. For 6, at the beginning of your end step, create a token that's a copy of target artifact you control. That is also absurd, especially considering artifacts are the best way to make mana in Commander because of all the rocks and things that are going on. I think this is going to see a lot of play as a rare, maybe more than people think. Next, going on, we have the Clan Crafter. So for a blue and 1, we have a background mythic. It says command creatures you own have for 2, sacrifice an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, and draw a card. Again, good way to sacrifice in the wrong colors. It's in blue, but hey, drawing cards and making things bigger is pretty sweet. Next, we have Beloff. I don't know how to say this. The Entertainer. For a red and 4, you get a 2/5 Elf Shaman mythic. Creatures your opponents control with power less than his are goaded. So that's just automatic. And whenever a goaded attacker or blocker or blocking creature dies, you create a treasure token. and you get to choose a background. So not too bad, pretty sweet. 5 mana seems a bit much, but eh. Next we have whatever this thing is, a Crab Ooze Horror, which is a Ukulon, I guess. So for a black and 3, you get a star 4. Its power and toughness is equal to the number of crabs, oozes, and horrors you control. It has the Horrific Symbiosis, which is at the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target creature card from an opponent's graveyard. If you do, create a token that's a copy of this thing. So this is going to be pretty sweet. Probably should have been a mythic, considering you can do that with it. Just because if you're just running all crabs, oozes, and or horrors, and this thing just starts procreating like crazy, this could get out of hand quick. Plus, it's great graveyard control. So, next we have the Endless Evil. So for a blue and 2 aura, you enchant creature you control. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of the enchanted creature, except the token is 1/1. When enchanted creature dies, if the creature was a horror, return Endless Evil to its owner's hands. This is insane. Again, you slap this on in Miracle, and now all of a sudden, beginning of your upkeep, you get a 1/1 in Miracle, or Immacool, or whatever, whichever one you want, and give it haste and swing for absurdity. This thing is just going to be disgusting. It's going to be a great rare. Next we have From the Catacombs. Hey, there's that Thrasher thing from regular D&D. Anyway, so 2 black and 3 sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a corpse counter on it. If that creature would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else, and you get to take the initiative. Also has escape. Exile 5 other cards. You can actually cast this card from your graveyard. This is going to be pretty sweet, although it is 5 mana, but 5 mana is the typical cost to get most things out of your graveyard. So it is what it is. Next, we have the Psionic Ritual. 2 blue and 4 sorceries. It has Replicate, which is to replicate it, you tap a untapped horror you control. What that means is when you cast a spell, you get to copy it for each time you pay the replicate cost. And then choose new targets. And what this thing does is you exile target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost, and then you exile the ritual. This thing should definitely have been a mythic because this is absurdity. Yeah, this is going to be a sweet card, and I think we're going to see this pop up in a lot of decks. Next, we have the Haunted One. So for a black and 2, we have a background mythic. Commander creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes tapped, it and other creatures you control that share a creature type with it each get +2/+0 and gain Undying till the end of turn. Wow, bringing back the old school stuff there. So when a creature has Undying, dies, if it had no +1/+1 counters on it, you get to return to the battlefield and put a +1/+1 counters on it. That means your commander has to die twice before you have to recast it. This seems absurd and looks like I would think this would be something very expensive. With that said, it's not at the current moment, but we'll go over that later. Next, we have Zelix Sanity Flare. So for a blue and 2, you get a 2/3 mythic. It's a horror. It's a hive mind. When a player mills 1 or more creature cards, you create a 1/1 black horror creature token. 1 and tap it. Target player mills 3 cards. You get to choose a background. So this must be part of that stuff where the horrors and oozes and what have you. Next, we have a piss poor picture. Sorvex Tome, 4 mana. When it enters the battlefield, you get to take the initiative. You can tap it for a colorless. If you have the initiative, it produces 2 colorless, which is pretty sweet. For 3 and tapping it, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast a card without paying its mana cost. Activate only if you've completed the dungeon. This seems insanely good. Wow. So yeah, free cast is always good and probably going to be too broken to play. Next we have something Haunter. This picture's awful. So for 2 green and 5, you get a 7/7 Trampler. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a creature spell you cast from exile. That seems absurd. The adventure is for a green and 1, exile target creature card from your graveyard until the end of your next turn. You may cast that card. Ooh, that's disgusting. So this thing's probably going to see some abuse, I'm not going to lie. Next we have Deep Known Pteromancer. So for a white and 1, you get a 2/2. Has Flash, Gnome Wizard. Mold Earth. Whenever 1 or more lands enter the battlefield under an opponent's control without being played, you may search your library for a Plains card, put it on the battlefield tap, then shuffle. Do this only once each turn. Cool thing about this is it says a Plains card, not a basic land. So anything with Plains in the title is something you can fetch, like Triomes, Shocklands, all that good stuff. So this will probably definitely see some play. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, because if your opponent fetches with a fetch land, that triggers that guy. So anyway, Brainstealer Dragon, 2 black and 5 for a 6/6 flyer. Dragon Horror, obviously part of the horror deck. At the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of each opponent's library. You may play those cards as long as they remain exiled. If you cast a spell this way, you may spend mana of any color, yada yada yada. Whenever a non-land permanent an opponent controls enters the battlefield under your control, they lose life equal to its mana value. Sweet God. So that's pretty sweet. That's going to be a pretty good card. Next, we have Stick Together, 2 white and 3 sorcery. Each player chooses a party from among creatures they control, then sacrifice the rest. To choose a party, choose up to one of each: cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard. So this is another cool reiteration of Wrath if you're going to play a party deck. So I do like this. Seems pretty sweet. Next, you have Speculator Showdown. So for a red and 1, you apparently have a midget in the foreground getting nappy. Anyway, for sorcery, you get put a double strike counter. Wow, on target creature. Then you goad each creature that had a double strike counter. Put on it this way. You can overload it for 7. So you quite literally can make this a one-shot kill or overload it and make everything insane. Because everything gets double strike. You get double strike and you get double strike. It's the Oprah of double strike. Anyway, moving on. We have Bothersome Quesit. Red and 2 for a 3/2 with Menace as a demon. There's a cute little cat in the background. Anyway, goaded creatures your opponent controls can't block, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, goad target creature an opponent controls. Not too shabby. Moving on, next we have Seasoned Dungeoneer. White and 3 for a 3/4. When it enters the battlefield, you take the initiative, and whenever you attack, target attacking cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard gains protection from creatures until end of turn, and it explores. Very interesting. Huh. All right. Moving on. Next, we have Nalfacine, or whatever. That is so. Check this. Anyway, for red and 5, we have a beast demon. It's a 4/6 flyer. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, copy it. When you choose you may choose new targets for the copy. If it's a permanent spell, the copy gains haste, and at the beginning of your end step, sacrifice this permanent. That's interesting. I'm not sure if I like that or not, because you got to sacrifice the permanent without getting anything for sacrificing it. I mean, it gets haste, but yeah. Moving on. Next, we have Albrecht Spawn. So for a blue and 2, you got a 2/3 flash with ward 2. That's pretty good for 3 mana. It has probing telepathy. Whenever a creature entering the battlefield under an opponent's control causes a triggered ability of that creature to trigger, you may copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. This seems insanely good. Like, if you're playing against somebody who's doing dungeon delving stuff and that stuff is triggering, you can flash this thing in, and if all their abilities trigger to go like delve in the dungeon 3 times, now you get to delve in the dungeon 3 times. This thing seems insane. Moving on. We have Grell Philosopher. So I haven't seen this thing forever. A blue and 2 for a 1/4 horror wizard. So it has aberrant tinkering. When the Philosopher enters the battlefield and at the beginning of your upkeep, each horror you control gains all activated abilities of target artifact and opponent controls until end of turn. You may spend blue mana as though they were mana of any color to activate those abilities. Very interesting. With all the mana rocks and things that float around in Commander, this will probably see lots of play in blue and make for some very absurd turns. Next, we have Black Market Connection. So for black and 2, you get an enchantment. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you get to choose one. So before you attack, and before your main phase start, you can do Sell Counterband, where you create a treasure token and lose a life. You can buy information, you can draw a card and lose 2. Or hire a mercenary, create a 3/2 colorless shape-shifting creature token with Changeling, and lose 3 life. Seems like a better Bitter Blossom, kind of. Like, I can see this and Bitter Blossom in the same kind of deck doing some shenanigans. So I kind of like this. All right, next we have... Oh, looks like that's it. Well, thanks a lot for tuning in, guys, and putting up with me being a little late on the spoilers for the Commander actual decks that they're going to be selling in blocks. With that said, stay on the lookout. I'm going to do a few more videos tonight and get them posted out for the next couple days. I will be taking a short trip to go visit some friends and family in another state, but I will be putting videos up for you, so have no fear. The next videos, we're going to talk about some of the most expensive cards in Commander Legends as of today, and then we'll talk about what I think are going to be the best cards from Commander Legends to impact Commander and possibly see a large spike or become more valuable than they already are. So, thanks a lot for watching, guys. I do appreciate it. Till next time, be kind, and as always, I hope to see you across from the game table.